every one of us in here because he is discovering and uncovering our heritage for us. And today, you guys have seen some of this stuff already on social network and so forth. Curtis prepared a wonderful program for us today. I think we'll all be pleased to see and hear. Kurt, it's yours.
All right.
Kurt, before you start, one more thing.
Sure.
For those of y'all who wanted, Noah's back there bagging up meat. So, 1 gallon baggies. So if y'all want to take one of the bags home, please do so. We're going to have a lot left over. Not a lot, but it's quite a bit. We thought we were having 45 or 50 here, but it is a lot.
How many did we have here?
35, 30, 33, 35, so whatever.
Alright, so I guess the first thing I'll mention, how many of y'all had received this already by email or something? And have had a chance to read part of it? Even if it isn't clear? So other than that table, did anyone else? A couple of others? And if y'all are interested, what we'll do, we've got a sheet of paper here, and y'all want me to email it to you, electronic version of it. We can write down the email, and I'll send it to y'all. So, how many have heard about Herbert Byron Lemert? Or who knew much about him? Not too much? Okay. A little bit. Yeah, we didn't know too much about him, other than a few rumors and so forth. And so, coming up with 117 pages of information was just like, I had no idea that there was that much information about it. And so, I've got, everyone who has a name tag, like an orange color paper. I'm going to let y'all read out real loud, and then I'll do a little follow-up after each question or each fact part. So who has fact part number 1?
Okay. Oops. Herbert Byron Lemert was born on Friday, October 6, 1876, in Tea Garden Polk Township, Marshall County, Indiana. Herbert's father and mother were Ransom Lemert and Angeline Wright. Herbert was one of 6 children, which consisted of 3 boys and 3 girls: Charles, Ulysses, Mary, Herbert, Hetty, and Ida.
Okay, thank you. Now, sometimes when you're piecing together, like who people are and stuff, you have to use old records, and in this case, most of the family members were listed in the 1880 United States Census record. And I don't know if anyone else who does like genealogy work, if y'all are familiar with what that looks like. But it looks like a large spreadsheet, and it asks for the name, how old the person is, if they're male, female, if they're married, if they're single, where they were born, whether their parents were born, and so forth. Even what their occupation is. Now, in the 1880 United States Census, what was interesting is that there was one column that was asking the enumerator, who was going by and writing everyone's names down, if anyone in the household had measles. And so there so happened to be 2 family members in Herbert's family that had measles. He had 3 older siblings. Charles, who was 11 years old at the time, had measles. And his older sister, Mary, had measles. And it's interesting, I just thought about the family names. We're talking about how family names have been passed down, and how Herbert's sister's name is Mary. Now, Mary's a common name, so it could come from someone else, but I know we had Mary who passed away recently. So. And then her mother was Mary Wardinger. So there's a lot of Marys in there, but yeah, we also had an Aunt Mary Lemert, who married someone by the last name Wilson. Not related to our Wilson side of the family. But Yeah, the day, let me see. Oh yeah, Herbert's father's name. It's going to come up in a little bit. That's a family name that had been passed down. We're going to learn in a little bit. It was passed down to Grandpa Ewald. But I'm going to let whoever has fact card number 2, you can read that. Which you have? Who has fact card number 2? Okay. Would you like the mic?
I think I can be loud enough. Herbert Lemert was associated with the family of Valentine and Matilda Ewald since at least June 30th, 1895. At the time, Herbert was 18 years old and Laura Ewald was 11 years old.
Great. So I'm going to try it without the mic too and see if that picks up better. All right, so yeah, so what she had read, she, was reading about in 1895, like when they had we for sure know they knew each other. The Ewalds and Herbert Lemert, they for sure knew each other since 1895 because they went to the same social event together. And it says Valentine and Matilda, along with their family, which they had the 3 daughters, and Grandma Young, who Herbert later married, her name was Laura, and so she was 11 and a half years old at the time. Herbert was about 18 years old at the time. So they knew each other at least from that age level. So fact card number 3, who do we have?
Herbert married Laura Ewald on July 31st, 1898 in Tyner, Marshall County, Indiana. Herbert was 2 months away from turning 22 years of age. Laura, however, was only 14 years and 7 months old.
All right, so what was interesting about this is that here she was getting married. She was only 14, practically 14 and a half years of age. And so she, what I had discovered years ago, and I thought, well, there must have been a mistake, and her birthday or something, for her to have gotten married at such a young age. But that wasn't the case. We're going to learn in a little bit that here Herbert was almost 22 years of age and marrying a 14-and-a-half-year-old girl. Now, to give a little pretext to that, Herbert had been working on the farm, Valentine's farm, Valentine Ewald's farm, for 2 years prior to him marrying their youngest daughter, Laura Ewald. So I'm going to ask the next, number 4, who has that one?
So after their wedding, they were eating supper at Herbert's parents' house when Valentine and Matilda Ewald showed up and crashed the party.
Yeah, what was interesting is there's an article, a very detailed article. It's like they kind of hung out, shared the dirty laundry of what was going on in the community and stuff. And so what had happened, they got married on Sunday. It was a Sunday that they got married that day, and then that evening they were at Herbert's parents' house, at Ransom and Angeline's house, eating dinner, celebrating the wedding and stuff. All of a sudden, Valentine and Matilda show up and literally crash the party. Things got physical because Herbert, next thing you know, he's going to file a report and pressing charges against Valentine for assault and battery. So, and the judge, what was funny, the judge had to be, not funny to him probably, here he is most likely getting a knock on his door at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't think judges do that nowadays, but yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning they were waking the judge up to come try the case about Valentine. So Valentine ended up, accepting the charges, 2 of the charges he accepted. Matilda, whatever charge was brought against her, they let that one go. But Valentine, at that day and time, he paid $40 for the 2 charges, and then they took Laura home. So, and then 5 days later, that article about what had happened said, at that point in time, the daughter still hasn't gone to be with the husband. So, she was staying with her parents' house. I don't know at what point in time, but eventually she did go back and start living again with her husband. But yeah, had rough starting. But one of the things the article said is what the end will be, we don't know. But we guess it will be as it ought to be. All parties will make friends, and the married couple will live long and happily together. Well, that didn't happen. So, hence our name being Ewald instead of Lemert. So, fact card number 5, and he's got a lengthy one. He's going to take over for the next few minutes.
More follow up with a lot of it, but this gets pretty interesting. So Grandpa Ewald was born October 15th, 1899. His full name was Russell Ransom Lemert. Think about that. The name Ransom was Herbert Lemert's father's name, Ransom L. Lemert. All right, by the time Grandpa Ewald was 8 months old, on June 9th, 1900, in the 1900 United States Census, he was recorded with the name Russell Lemert. He and his mother, Laura Lemert, which you just read about, were living with Valentine and Matilda Ewald. By the time Grandpa Ewald was 10 and a half, on May 3rd, 1910, in the 1910 United States Census, he was recorded with the name Russell Ewald. Since he was being raised by his maternal grandparents, Valentine and Matilda Ewald, it seems most likely that he had adopted their last name. We're not done. By the time he was 18 years and 11 months old, on September 12, 1918, on the United States World War I draft registration card, filled out his name as Russell Edwin Ewald. Read so far? All right. This was the first time that the middle name Edwin was recorded. Where did the name Edwin come from? There are no other known family members with that name. Did he choose the name for himself? Did his grandparents choose it for him when they enrolled him into school? Who knows? By January 15th, 1920, in the 1920 United States Census, this is a trend, Grandpa Ewald was still living with Valentine and Matilda Ewald. By this time, he was 20 years old. Well, 20 years and 3 months old. His name was recorded as Russell Ewald. One day later, January 16th, 1920, also in the 1920 United States Census, he was shown to be living as a boarder and worked as a repair mechanic in a garage. His cousin Clarence Taylor was also living as a boarder there and working at the shop. This time, however, Grandpa Ewald was recorded with the name Russell E. Ewald. This was the first time that the name Ewald was used rather than Ewald. Why did he decide to change the spelling of his last name?
411.
So thank you, appreciate that. I know that was a lot of reading. But pretty interesting. I just wanted y'all to all kind of see the same pattern and stuff of how his name progressed and changed over time during the first 21 years of his life. So,
Hey, Kurt?
yes, sir.
I remember some of my grandparents speaking German, and A-W-A-L-T, well, we want to say Ewald, it was actually Ewald, because they pronounced the W as a V.
Right.
And they pronounced the V, the V is a W. So when they talked about vinegar, they said vinegar.
Right.
And so it was actually Ewald, but I would assume he changed it after the war because the German name was not very popular at that time. It needed to be more Americanized, I would think.
That happened.
Possibly.
No, that was very common, it happened
Yeah.
at Weimar and
Yeah.
Lorraine, and stuff, they changed.
Yeah, for the reason of right after World War I. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I missed something. So,
Yeah.
Grandpa's mom, I always understood from my mom that she lived in the house with her grandparents. It does not sound like she did.
No, well, she did at first. She did until she married. She married Mr. Young in 1904, and then she's found in the 1910 census to be with her new husband, and I'm trying to remember at least one or two of the children. She had two more children, a daughter and then a son, by her second marriage to Mr. Young.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she was living with the new family that she started, but for whatever reason, Valentine and Matilda Ewald decided to continue to raise him and stuff. So, not sure why. And I don't know if that information got passed down and stuff, or if even Grandpa, Ewald knew one himself because he was, just 5 years of age or something at the time. But I'm not sure how old he would have been when he started school and stuff. But yeah, he just stayed with them, and it seems it's very unusual. You heard that he mentioned whenever Chad was reading, he indicated that he had two different residences in 1920. From one day to the next, just a day apart. And so I think, because I've never seen that in all the research that I've done in other ancestors and stuff. And so I think what may have been happening, since Valentine didn't have any sons, they kind of raised Grandpa Ewald. Matter of fact, in 1910, they were indicating that Grandpa Ewald was their son rather than grandson. And in 1910, for whatever reason, Grandpa's half-brother, was it Clarence Taylor? Oh, no, not Clarence Taylor. That was the cousin. I'll have to look back at my records to see what but the last name was Young. So his half-brother was living there, but he was listed as the grandson of Valentine and Matilda. So I guess because Valentine and Matilda raised him, that specific year, they just referred to him as the son of. But yeah, 1920, he was listed in two different residences, and I think that was because he was helping, maybe living part-time when he didn't work at the auto mechanic shop, because he was living as a boarder with someone else, along with his cousin, Clarence Taylor. They were both boarders at someone else's residence, and so maybe that was closer to work and to the mechanic shop that he worked at. And then when he wasn't working at the mechanic shop, is my guess, is that he was living with his grandfather and grandmother, Valentine and Matilda, and helping him with the farm. Because, by then he would have been, quite a few years old, Valentine would have. So, but yeah, he's the only one I've ever come across where he's living at two different residences in the census record. Who has fact card number 6? I accidentally skipped fact card number 5. Sorry about that, whoever had that. But yeah, I kind of accidentally skipped you and went straight to the...
I didn't want to read anyway, I had fact part time.
Oh, okay.
But I do have another question for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So while you were looking through the census, and you saw Grandma Young listed as an address at her new home with her husband Young, do you know if that's the same house she stayed in forever, or did she buy, or she moved again? Because I was lucky enough to see her in that home one time before she went to the nursing home.
If she stayed in the same home up to the time right before the nursing home. I'll have to look into that. I haven't researched.
She had no running water, she had no electricity. If she chopped her own firewood, she was like up in her 90s. But she had dementia, she didn't know any of it. She could still play that piano, and then they put her in a nursing home 6 months later, she was gone.
Now you mentioned something, so she did play the piano. Okay.
Yeah, she played for us while we were there.
I didn't realize that she played piano. That's interesting. Because we were making the conversation. We had learned something. Well, I'll tell about it a little bit later, but we'll talk a little bit about who has musical gifts and talents other than my grandfather. We knew my grandfather did. I didn't realize that Grandma Young had played piano and stuff. So, yeah, fact card number 6.
On June 7th and 8th, 1900, in the 1900 United States Census, Herbert was living as a boarder with his sister Mary's family. On June 9th, 1900, in the 1900s United States Census, Laura and Russell were living with their parents Valentine and Matilda Ewald.
All right, so here we're seeing just a day apart in the 1900 census that here Herbert is living with his sister Mary's family, and then you have Laura and Russell, Grandpa Ewald as a baby, living with, they're living with Valentine Matilda Ewald. So this is the point where we realize something must have happened. And so I'm going to go ahead and have fact card number 7, whoever has that.
Less than 2 months after the 1900 United States Census, on August 1st, 1900, Laura filed for divorce from Herbert. They had been married for exactly 2 years before she filed for divorce. Then 2 months later, Herbert filed a complaint for damages against Laura's parents, Valentine and Matilda Ewald. Both parties were summoned to appear in court on October 8th, 1900.
Interesting. All right, so yeah, exactly 2 years. Happy 2nd anniversary. I want to divorce from you. So after being married for 1 year and 8 months, Herbert, and this is what happened. So before she filed for divorce, earlier that year on March 28th of 1900, Herbert had abandoned her, and Grandpa Ewald was just 5.5 months old at the time when his dad abandoned them. I found out from the divorce record and stuff as to why she filed for divorce. And for the first 6 months of the marriage was fine, but about the last 15 months, she filed divorce for cruel and inhuman treatment. And so we find out a little bit more detail. I'll read some of this. So after 6 months of being married, Laura stated that Herbert had beaten, these are the words used in the document, in the divorce decree, beaten, wounded, kicked, and struck during the month of February 1899. So this is before Grandpa Ewald was born. 8 months later, on October the 18th, 1899, now Grandpa Ewald, he was born 3 days before that, on October 15th, 1899. So he was only 3 days old at the time, that Herbert, once again, he wounded and struck Laura while she was lying in bed sick and helpless. So I'm sure any of you mothers who have given birth, how do you feel 3 days after you've given birth to your child? You're probably just exhausted still and so forth. So, but anyway, I don't know if Herbert wanted her to fix lunch. I didn't go into that type of detail, but she was laying in bed, sick and helpless, and he ended up striking her and wounding her. 4 months later, in the month of February 1900, Herbert struck Laura again. She also testified that there were various other times that he had beaten, wounded, struck, and kicked her without any cause. He also called Laura bad names and used profane and obscene language towards her. He also failed to provide for Laura in a manner suitable for a wife and mother. This is the way they worded stuff in the document. Some of the common necessities of life, such as clothing for her and the baby. So he failed to provide for her and Grandpa Ewald as a baby. Finally, Herbert left and abandoned Laura and Russell on March 28, 1900, without any cause. Larry's attorney was trying to prove that Herbert was not a fit person to have the care and custody of their child, Russell. And I think we all agree at this point that it was probably a good thing that he did not be in custody. Grandpa Ewald could have turned out to be something completely different. Fact card number 8. Who has that one?
Herbert sued his father-in-law and mother-in-law, Valentine and Matilda Ewald, for $15,000 in damages. Today, that amount equates to about $570,000. What damages could they possibly have caused Herbert that would have cost so much money?
So why did Herbert sue Valentine and Matilda for $15,000 in damages? I mean, what could he have caused damages to them? Well, Herbert claimed that he and Laura were content and happily married. Y'all think that was so? What we've already discovered. Until, this is Herbert's claim, until Valentine and Matilda wrongfully, unjustly, unlawfully, and maliciously, these are the words of the document, persuaded, enticed, and alienated the affections of his wife. So it's all their fault that she wants a divorce from him. So, have you ever met someone like that who wants to blame it all on someone else?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, Valentine and Matilda denied all of Herbert's allegations. In their defense, they stated that Herbert had never treated Laura in a manner becoming a husband to a wife. On various occasions, Herbert had choked her. We hadn't read that yet, so they witnessed something about him choking her, beating her and striking her. It was Herbert's conduct that caused an estrangement of Laura's affections. Then after Herbert had abandoned Laura and baby Russell on March 28, 1900, they had nowhere else to go except back to Valentine and Matilda's. And so that was their defense. And right now there was like some 30 questions that their attorney, the defense attorney for Valentine and Matilda, presented to Herbert, and he answered each question. Some of them with just a short answer, no, but we're going to have a couple of family members. Y'all didn't realize they were actors. They were on, maybe not on Broadway, but they're going to be on the Ewald Broadway. So we've got Larry he's going to be the defense attorney for Valentine and Matilda. We have Noah. Y'all give him a hand. He's going to play the part of Mr. It's all your fault and not my fault. Mr. Herbert Lemert.
How old are you?
24.
When were you and Laura May Lemert married?
July 30th, 1898.
This guy's got it memorized. Where did you and your wife reside since your marriage up to the time of your separation? And stayed each and every place and length of time and when in each place you lived?
Well, first we lived in Tea Garden for about 2 months. Then we moved to East End, Coons Lake, and stayed there until about April 1st, 1899. Then we moved to the Sam Miller Farm, north of Tyner, until the 19th of June, 1899. Then we moved to Valentine Ewald's and stayed there until near winter. Then we moved to Oliver Wilson's farm and stayed there until February 5th, 1900. Then we moved on to the Pool place and stayed there until the 28th of March, 1900, which is when I went to Chicago to get work, as Mr. Poole and I could not agree.
Can't understand that. How much of the time since your marriage have you lived in the house with the defendants, Valentine and Matilda Ewald?
From about
In
June,
the defendant's house.
from about June to October,
So, 4 months?
give or take.
Since your marriage to the defendant's daughter, have you worked for Valentine Ewald, and if yes, how long?
All the time I was there, from June to October.
Since your marriage, did you fight with Valentine Ewald, your father-in-law? Did you strike him or strike at him?
I warded off his attack on me and struck him when he came at me with a hand axe.
Am I his attorney or am I the DA?
Not with the DA.
During that time, did you fight with Matilda Ewald, your mother-in-law? Did you strike her, and did you also throw her down and against the stove?
No, I did not strike her in any way.
During the time you lived with your wife, did you have any quarrel And if so, how many times did you quarrel?
Yes, we had a quarrel at Mr. Poole's place. Yes, several times we quarreled when she had just returned from her father's house.
When you lived on Robert L. Poole's farm, did you whip your wife, and or did you strike her, and or did you choke her?
Never in any way whatsoever.
Did you ever call your wife a name unbecoming a husband to use towards his wife?
I'm not answering. For the reason that is not definite. For a reason that is not definite, it is simply an opinion as to what is unbecoming a husband.
So you take a fifth, huh?
Fifth Amendment.
How old was your wife when you were married?
16 in December.
Is that accurate? Or did he misremember?
Yeah, she would turn 15, but Herbert, he just threw out whatever answer I guess.
Husband of the year.
When you married your wife, you knew just how old she was, didn't you?
No, still don't.
Did you say to Louis Diaper that you were going to get in with Valentine Ewald and ruin Laura and then leave her on his hands, or words to that effect?
No.
Did you tell Louis Diaper or anyone else that you intended to kill Valentine Ewald's team?
No.
And by team, I'm thinking farm animal team.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Do you own a house or home? And if so, where is it? And what kind of a home is it you own?
No.
When you struck and beat your wife's parent, had you any home to take your wife to?
I never struck them except to ward off their blows. But I had a home better than her parents gave her.
And all the, like every 2 months you were moving?
Home is where the heart is.
Has your wife born a child for you? How old is this child?
Yes, he turned 1 year old on the 15th of October, 1900.
And what place was the child born?
On the Oliver Wilson farm in Marshall County, Indiana.
What trade or occupation do you follow for a living?
Labor and machinist.
How much are you now worth? And of what does your property consist?
I have my daily wages only.
Did you, about the 23rd day of last March, or any other time, throw a large potato at and against your wife, hitting her in the back?
Yes, I tossed a potato back to her, but she had thrown to me. But all in fun.
Did you strike your wife when you lived on the east side of Coons Lake?
No, never.
Did you whip your wife about 6 months before your child was born when you lived near Tyler?
No, never.
Were you at Chicago last spring?
Yes.
Before you returned to Chicago, did you try to persuade another woman to return to the city with you?
No.
Did you state in the presence of Miss Viola Ewald in relation to the child that you wished the damn kid would die, or words to that effect?
No.
Did you use indecent language in the presence of Miss Viola Ewald?
No.
Did you not try to get in bed with Miss Viola Ewald the last morning you were at the house of the defendants?
No.
Did you make such attempt at any other time and place?
No.
Did you require or permit your wife to walk to your father's house a distance of 4 miles when your child was but 1 month old?
No.
Yeah, and so what we're gonna do real quick, if y'all would like it's more detailed than what Chad had read about the evolution of his name, how it changed and stuff. It's actually front and back. It's very detailed. We don't want to, if someone wants to pass those out, do I have a Vanna? Vanna. So we're gonna kind of take a quick little questionnaire, since we've covered so much in just a short period of time. Are there any questions or any thoughts? What do you think of Herbert at this point in time? Anyone? Any comments?
I think if he was my husband, he better not go to sleep.
Right? If he was my son-in-law, he would not be here.
Was I think say we wouldn't have got past that first day, that would have been over with.
So there was Viola,
Lay a hand on the wall.
What was that?
there was Viola.
I'm glad you asked. Viola was cousin. I think she's about 11 months older than Laura. She's on the Valentine side of the family, the Ewald side, I mean.
Okay.
So she's a first cousin to Laura.
So, I've always heard that there was a newspaper article about Valentine beating his wife, being charged for that. You didn't come across
I've
that at
never
all?
come across any where Valentine did that.
But I remember that coming out 10, 15, 20 years ago, something like that. And
Yeah, if you see any article like that, I'd love to see
I
it.
haven't seen it, but we've discussed it before at the reunion.
Oh, did you?
And but the concept was, it was in the South Bend newspaper at the time.
Okay.
And
That's where I found most of the articles, but I haven't, and I found,
and if that's the case,
yeah.
he might have been, every accusation is a, is a confession. I mean, he might have been trying to, from what Larry and Noah just did,
Yeah.
it could be that all that was jimmied up to get rid of this guy. I mean, I still, that's not the point where I feel that he might have been treated accurately. Now, it could be that Ewald had something against the Lemert family, or maybe he was just mad because he took Laura before age of consent. Because I was thinking age of consent could have been like 13 or 14, but in 1899 it was actually 16. And so she was still well below the age of consent. So
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. It was without their consent, and they definitely didn't know anything about it until, and I think that's why what drew them, they said, what? Somehow they heard through the grapevine what had happened, that she had a wedding, they just got married that day. All of a sudden they show up to the wedding feast, and that's where things get physical and stuff. But now the thing with the questionnaire stuff, it went, because that's the attorney seemed to question Viola. He seemed to question some. I had to look up who the other fellow was that was mentioned in there.
yeah, probably another farmhand or something.
Yeah, it may have been some other guy and stuff, neighbor or something.
But all this could have been under duress. He could have said, "This is
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
to tell him."
And I would say that might be the case, except how his second wife also made the same claim. Her name was Maggie Carter, and she married him, and she filed the same thing. We find out in an article that she filed a complaint that he threatened her with a revolver. If it was just one source, I would, say, well, it's possible that could be the case. But there were so many different sources that it was coming from. So. And it wasn't the first marriage that ended divorce because of inhuman and cruel, intent and stuff. But yeah, so you have to kind of take everything and kind of piece it together.
Do I remember correctly reading that Valentine and Matilda didn't even know she was getting married, and they found out about it, and that's when they went to the Lemert's house,
Right.
and busted up the party and took her home.
Right.
They had no warning.
Just off the side, what did Matilda who got killed at the railroad crossing?
Yeah, so the question he just asked, and it's an interesting one, because I did find the coroner's report on that. He asked how Matilda died. She died in 1934. She was crossing. She actually was still using a horse and buggy in 1934. And she was crossing over the railroad tracks in Mishawaka, Indiana. And I actually went there to the same crossing. Of course, it's, it's all done properly now, but back in the day it must not have been. And so she was crossing, and she had just finished. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She was crossing the railroad track, trying to, going out of town. She had just finished shopping, and so she was in her horse and buggy. I think she was 83 years old age at the time, and she didn't make it across in time. she and the horse were killed instantly. And yeah, they had 3 different conductors or whatever on the train, and they were all investigated and questioned. I didn't make copies of that because I figured I'd say that for another year. But since you asked, I wanted to give you a little bit of what I can remember off the tip of my
I
mind.
always heard that she was deaf at that point.
That's what my grandmother told me too, and my grandmother knows everything. So
She was 83. I get why maybe she would have done that. That damn horse should have been smarter than that.
unless the horse was as old and deaf as she was.
Yeah.
So
Well, and to his track record of going from home to home to home every 2 months, I mean,
what does that tell you when someone
They got
doesn't?
tired of it.
Tell me he must have been a great big old boy that everybody was scared of because any other male would have whooped his ass.
Have y'all ever heard the expression "wear out your welcome"?
Oh, yeah.
That's what comes to mind whenever I think of that. Reading how within 20 months of them living together, what was it, 7 times? Boom, ba boom, ba boom. Like you said, every 2 or 3 months they were moved somewhere else. So, yeah, it's not a very good way to live right after you get married and stuff. You're not settling down anywhere. It's like, oh, time to pack up and leave again. So
We kept making everybody mad, so.
I probably did. Probably wore out his welcome,
Yeah.
so to speak. So,
That, yeah, he probably,
yeah.
doesn't sound like it was really hard work or anything.
Yeah, that may have been part of it too. It's like, you're not going to earn your keep. Just hit the door.
Just a little off the subject.
Yeah.
I remember my brother Mike telling me, he had pretty detailed information. I don't know where he got it, but he said at one time, all 3 girls of Matilda and Valentine, their husbands had been killed or died of some, like snake bite, and
Oh yeah.
whatever.
Unusual.
Unusual, deaths. And then all 3 girls with whatever children they had moved back home, because back then young women did not live on their own.
All right.
Yes, they all moved back home.
And that might be why, I'm trying to remember, I know Clarence was living with them, I think in 1910, and it was because Clarence Taylor, and so his father, Mr. Taylor, was 30 years old, and I did find his obituary in the newspaper, and he was working, I think he was trying to check some type of connector underneath the train car. Yeah, I sent the obituary to y'all. Is that something along the line?
Yeah,
And he
it's
was,
all bad stuff.
and they somehow, the 2 cars, the train cars, as heavy as they are, he must not notice that one was approaching him, and it crushed and killed him.
Yeah.
While he was adjusting something underneath or
He
something.
was trying to get that horse out from underneath.
Yeah, that was a tragic death. And the interesting thing about Valentine is he had been hit crossing that same track. He didn't die initially. It took several years, but he was injured, and he had that injury up until his death several years later, is what her article said. But that her husband had also been hit at that same railroad crossing. So there's a reason that there's a cross arm.
Who got hit first?
They ought to call it the Ewald crossing or something. But yeah, any other questions?
And then the funny thing was, Grandma and Grandpa built a house right across the field, right next to the damn train track. What is it about these trains?
They like trains, I guess, don't
What's that?
they? They must like the trains. They like the sound of it or something.
do any of you remember when Grandpa decided he wanted to change his name back to Lemert?
Y'all are asking me something I don't know
Nobody
about.
remembers this? Larry, do you remember that? Oh, I do. It was a big stink because your dad and Uncle Lee and Aunt Doris were like, no, we would have to change all of our birth certificates. And Grandpa called everybody to Kingsbury. How come I'm the one who remembers it?
I was just saying
That must have been the Alzheimer's starting right there.
He called everybody to Kingsbury and said, I want to change my name back to the correct name. And Mom said Lemert was French. That doesn't sound French, is it?
There's some differing opinions. I mean, there's certain Lemerts from France, some from Germany. They're not quite sure.
Yeah, because I remember Mom telling me that his grandparents ran him off because he was French. And Mom never said that he beat the crap out of great-grandma.
Yeah.
So...
And that comes to question, why didn't they? Was it something shameful that they didn't really want to tell people as to that there was physical abuse?
Well, but she said it was back then. It was like marrying a totally different race, is what Grandpa had told them.
But that's between World War I and World War II.
Yeah, except
think about that. You know what was going on. Well, after World War II, you would have a little bit of a different level of pride, but with France and some of the toxic masculinity with a U.S. soldier talking about a Frenchman, I could see where that would come, but not back then. Not that far back, I don't know.
No, had he come directly from France, that might be an issue, but several generations of Lemert, and plus Herbert's mother's last name is Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. Which is, I think, English, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he went full.
Okay, I remember that, the English-French thing. And so Grandpa called everybody in, and I remember your mom being, and your dad going, no, we have to go back and change all the birth certificates.
Yeah.
And
we
can't do that, and
we just like changing his name. What started all that, if I'm not mistaken, is when Grandpa turned old enough to collect Social Security. And Daddy and Mother went up to South Bend and found his birth certificate. He'd never seen his birth certificate till then. And then when he saw his birth certificate and saw that and I got a lot of this from Mike, because Mike would talk to Grandma and Grandma about it, and a lot of that oral history is gone now. But he would pronounce it Lemert and say it was French. And Lemert was the first time that we, first time with him. I remember what you're talking about, because Daddy had found that birth certificate of Grandpa's, and Grandpa had never seen it before. And they had to have it, I think it was for Social Security, so you could start drawing Social Security or something. But anyway, that was I remember that. I don't remember the brouhaha about changing all the birth certificates and everything. I just remember how Grandpa had found out that he was not, that wasn't, Ewald wasn't his real first name, last name.
That makes sense about how you're saying it was pronounced, though, because if you think about like Hebert, H-E-R-B-E-R-T, is like a Cajun French name, they say it Hebert.
Yeah.
So.
I got a couple of things.
Sure.
Number one, guess what? $15,000 in 1900 would be worth today.
200,000.
451,000.
$574,000.
I was close because I was listening, because he said 540,000.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring this up is, to me, this adds to the guy's questionable character. He was trying to sue the Ewald for $15,000 back then, because obviously they had money.
Yeah.
They must have had some money for him to do that. And in my opinion, he was trying to sue them to get their money or their land or whatever. The other thing was, I was telling some other folks here today, I had that blood test or saliva test, whatever it was, you send in and tell you what your lineage is. Zero French. So he was not French, otherwise it'd show up in my bloodstream, I think.
Okay. So, those of you who who read the book and stuff, from what y'all remember, what other things did y'all find interesting that you want me to kind of just, because I didn't really type other stuff up, so what I'll do is just touch base on some of the highlights that y'all think are highlights.
He lied and said he was a doctor, and he had the magic potion, the cure-all for it, you know, and was going around selling it.
Snake oil silver.
Snake oil silver.
All right, so here we have right here is a few directories that I was able to find. Now in 1903, this is before he got into practicing medicine. So 1903, that's when he was married to his third wife. Now she died, she's the one that died after 10 months of being married to him. He didn't kill her, just to let you know. It's showing her death record that she had some type of infection, abdominal infection. After 10 days of having it, she finally died. She was 24 years of age. She had been married beforehand, had 2 surviving daughters that were young, I think 5 and 6 years of age or something like that. So they went back to live with either their dad or the grandfather on their mom's side. So, but yeah, the directory shows that he was married to her at the time, his third wife that died, and it shows that he was working for the Dodge Manufacturing Company. That was the first time. That was something new that I learned on my recent trip up to Oregon. So he worked for them. That was another thing. He never seemed to be very steady. He was always changing jobs, changing places of residence, changing wives, changing names. Yes, we're going to learn a little bit about. He had a couple of aliases that he used during his lifetime. But yeah, 1903, he was working for the Dodge Manufacturing Company. 1908, by this time he was married to his fourth wife, Alvina, and they were listed as being proprietors of a cancer exterminator remedy company. Cancer exterminator remedy company.
Snake oil.
And then 1912 is the next census, also in Michigan, not Michigan, but South Bend, Indiana. This time it changed a little bit. The last name had Cancer Exterminator Remedy. This time it changed one of the words, Cancer Exterminator Medical Company. They were living in a different address than what they were in 1908. So
Just to be
again, they
clear,
changed
no
addresses.
medical degree, right? No medical
Right, no
degree.
license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
still like being a doctor today. All right.
then in 1914, 2 years later, they're living at yet another different address 2 years later, and his wife Alvina. They're still doing the Cancer Exterminator Medical Company. Then the last one I was able to find is whenever I was in Oregon, this picture of the book that they had, the cover of it, 1921, finally listed him more specifically as an herb specialist in that one. And so, and there you go. That was in Pendleton, Oregon. So yeah, he did. That's kind of he got involved around 1905, as early as 1905, doing some type of maybe herb medicine stuff. I know one of the articles in 1922 after he died, a man was, because it was during the Prohibition. Who knows what the Prohibition is? Okay, you. What's your name?
Me?
Yes.
Cameron.
Tell me all about it.
About the Prohibition?
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of angry drunks. Get drunk anymore.
Not in public.
So what was the Prohibition about then? It was
get rid of alcohol in the United States.
Yeah.
Or the sale of alcohol. You can make it, but you couldn't sell it.
Yeah, moonshine.
Yeah.
Is that when they had speakeasies and stuff?
Do what?
When they had speakeasies and stuff, like where you would go and like these underground clubs and drink.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's probably a lot of, what is it called, bootlegging?
Yeah.
Moonshine. And then, Well, the Dukes of Hazzard weren't living here at that time.
You still can't, well, like,
Yeah, but there were areas of the United States that were dry.
yeah.
You know, even after Prohibition, you know,
Oh, I
stuff like that. There were the Bible Belt kind of.
Dripping Springs was that way until about 10 years.
Centerville's still dry, right? The only town in this county that's dry.
The Dukes of Hazzard drove right.
Centerville.
And you're right.
Dodges.
Hey, yeah, there you go. One another relation there.
People just go down the road 15 minutes to Buffalo or do it.
Yeah.
Kurt,
Yeah.
what about the occupation of his last one that didn't, the water well, the pump?
Oh, yeah,
thing?
yeah.
That was another.
I'll go ahead and get to that too. I'll read real quick. Yeah, so I looked up a little bit more detail about the Prohibition period. So the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution, ratified in 1919, established the prohibition of alcohol, making the manufacture, the sale, and the transportation of intoxicating liquors illegal. It was repealed by the 21st Amendment in 1933, making it the only amendment in the U.S. history to be completely repealed. Maybe I wanted that little bit of tidbit. Sometimes it's interesting to look things up. So, I know one of the things I found interesting, this was from 1922 that I learned on the trip. I'd never known anything. That's why I was interested about you said that Grandma Young played the piano. And so I found this interesting about Herbert, is that he was a part of this prohibition thing, you know, supporting it and stuff. He was working with some fellow who was a reformed gambler and saloon keeper, and he went by the name Three Finger Jack. So apparently he lost 2 of his fingers at some point. But
Three fingers. You can't make this up.
For real. Three Finger Jack. I have evidence right here.
Hooking up a couple train cars.
Yeah, but he says Three Finger Jack. The little bit I found on him, he was an evangelist to lumberjack men, loggers, miners, farmers, but he was also in the political scene, supporting prohibition. And Herbert says one of the features of the meeting last night was the somewhat humorous prohibition solo done by Dr. H.B. Lemert. He sang, and it was accompanied on his guitar. And I know anyone who knows my grandfather, Lee, he played guitar, harmonica, organ, and sang and stuff along with it. So I never realized that that Grandma Young, for example, or Herbert, played instruments. So who I knew Uncle Kenny did he not? He played in the band. Y'all said, and who?
He played bass.
He played bass in a band.
Yeah.
And then Grandma played the piano.
Oh, Grandma Ewald?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
Daddy got a full scholarship to TLC for choir, and also played in the marching band. I think he played trombone.
Okay, so we have some musically inclined people. And how about y'all's generation? Anyone?
2 of mine play saxophone.
Saxophone?
Yeah, saxophone.
So yeah, we do have some music and stuff in the family. I just didn't realize Herbert was until this is the only article I've come across that showed that he played the guitar and sang. And was humorous when he's not meeting his wife. So, but anyway, so my mom had mentioned the thing that actually caused his death, and it was really a lengthy article back here. How many already know how he died? 1, 2, 3, 4. So a train. No, that's on the Ewald side. So if your last name is Ewald, just
Beware.
It's not good. So, yeah, as you can see, the real big title here: legs mangled, Bend man dies from injuries. And so, a very lengthy article. It says, Dr. Herbert Lemert lives only a few hours after accident on Seth Stuckey Ranch. He was the inventor of a new pump. So Dr. Herbert Lemert of Bend died at 7:30 o'clock last night of shock and internal injuries sustained when his legs were nearly severed below his knees by a cable which was being used in lowering pipe into a well on the Seth Stuckey Ranch 20 miles east of Bend. The cable was jerked into the well by falling pipe and tangled about Lemert's legs, a section of the loose pipe striking him about the same time, breaking his right shoulder and causing the internal injuries. The accident occurred about 3:30 o'clock. So it looks like he lived 4 hours before he died. Stuckey, who was present, gave first aid and prevented loss of blood. A call was sent for a Bend physician, and Dr. J.C. Vandergert immediately responded and worked with Lemert for some time. Then a truck was sent forward to transport the injured man to Bend. J.D. Donovan went out with a truck, and Lemert was placed in it to be brought to a hospital here. He was transferred to the physician's car when the truck developed engine trouble. Can you imagine? The luck of
Karma.
Karma. Yeah, when the truck developed engine trouble. And he died after being brought 6 miles toward Bend. His wife and daughter, who had been sent for, were in the car at the time of his death. 725 feet of pipe, weighing more than 2 tons, were suspended from the mouth of the well with 165 feet of loose cable spread over the ground attached to it. Then, when Stuckey, operating the engine hoist, started to raise the heavy weight of tubing to allow for its being lowered further, the collar attached to the upper end of the pipe pulled loose, and the pipe fell, jerking the cable with it. Dr. Lemert failed to avoid the coil of cable, which wrapped around his legs, dragged him over the hole, smashing the bones of the legs to bits, and stripping off the flesh. So great was the pull of the suspended pipe that in an instant the cable had torn through flesh and bone, following the pipe into the well. Although fatally injured, Dr. Lemert was able to give Stuckey detailed directions as to the treatment of the mangled parts, and especially insisted that his right shoulder be tightly bandaged, fearing internal bleeding from an artery which he believed had burst. Only the efficient first aid given by the rancher kept Dr. Lemert alive until a physician could arrive from Bend. Almost from the moment of his injury, Dr. Lemert realized that he had no chance for life, but was cool and in full possession of his mental faculties until within a half hour of his death, when he gradually lost consciousness. The only regret he expressed, Stuckey said, was that he left no insurance or property for the members of his family. That surprised you, doesn't it? Lemert was installing a patent pump, a device for which he had the exclusive organ cell. He came to Bend several months ago in the interest of this pump and was having it manufactured in small quantities at the Bend Iron Works. He had sold a number, but this was the first to be installed. Dr. Lemert was formerly a practicing physician at Pendleton. He was 45 years of age and is survived by his wife and his daughter, Miss Marguerite Lemert. Funeral services will be at 2 o'clock Thursday from the Niswonger Chapel. Reverend Niswonger, he happened to be an undertaker. And I have a picture of his building and stuff like that. And I also have a picture of the doctor that I found. And then he's buried in the Pilot Butte Cemetery, which I visited in Oregon a few weeks ago. So yeah, that was a pretty tragic death. So, like you said, karma.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna say he didn't deserve it. but-
Right, it's
I
pretty
never
horrible.
checked if he was a real medical doctor. It said he was practicing.
Yeah, when did that?
Right, and the thing with the different types of doctors, you know, you have homeopathic doctors during that time, you had herbalists, which finally, 1921, I think that was closer to the type of medicine that he practiced was herb. They referred to him as an herb specialist. But yeah, on his gravesite, they put DR,
Sounds like he's
H.B.
a
Lemert.
salesman. Sounds like he's full of crap. You need to be a salesman, sounds like he's full of crap.
He was a salesman, yeah, you're right, he was really a salesman is what he was, so. You might not want to buy a car from him, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's tons of more information. We'll go ahead and call it quits and take photographs now. But yeah, if y'all will